tips and some best practices around that, and how you can go out and build your brand. So we're going to pull up the deck here in a second. And then, of course, we can have some Q&A. I will say, if you're watching this, at the bottom of the screen there is a little Q&A button or box. Feel free to start punching in questions there right in that dialogue box anytime, starting now throughout Abel and I talking and the presentation. Just punch in questions. We'll probably get to most of those at the end of the presentation, but we'll get to them. We love the Q&A stuff. We want to make it interactive, and so you got the avenue right there, right below in the Q&A field. So we're going to pull up our presentation. We're setting up some live streams and pushing this out to the whole world here. So we're going to get the deck going in just a moment. But we'll talk about building your multifamily brand today so that you can go out, attract capital, go take down bigger deals. So instead of buying that house for $100,000 or $200,000 and flipping it, you can go target that $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, $30 million and up apartment complex. And of course, a deal like that is a lot of moving pieces in a team, but there's countless examples of people that have built this kind of business in a relatively short period of time. And that's what we want to talk about today. So we're going to get started in just a second here. I know we've got some of our live streams getting set up. Abel, how's the week treating you, man? What's been going on?
I can't complain. We threw out some offers, waiting on some feedback.
All right.
Looking at other deals, walking properties, and there's been a lot of activity recently. New opportunities coming out, and I'm in a different position than I was in last year, trying to buy more deals, and it's been fun, as you are as well. So I love seeing the growth on really everyone, from our students, our investors, people that we're providing education for, all of us. It's 1 year's time, right? I can't wait to see next year and the year after that. It's gonna be awesome.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, you and I are partners on a deal down in South Texas. We were kind of on some email threads yesterday. My company's closing a 400 unit deal we're working on. Some apartment educators coaching clients are closing a big, huge deal today. I mean, that's a pretty exciting. So I love it, man. Just to echo that sentiment. I love seeing all the progress here. So let's jump in. We're going to talk about building your brand for a multifamily business. My name is Devin Elder. We've got Abel Pacheco here as well. And we're going to talk about, Abel, you want to kind of talk about the vision for these meetups here?
Yeah, we started the, just to cover the past, right? We started the multifamily meetup in person, San Antonio, Texas. It's kind of ground zero for us. The premier multifamily meetup in San Antonio. We were probably at 60, 80, maybe 100-ish, one of the biggest events. And then COVID came. So we switched to having these. It was the next best, thing. And have been pushing these every couple of weeks, providing education and an opportunity to still network with each other. And that provides us the opportunity to meet more partners. And pretty soon here, I think as vaccinations flowing and all that good stuff, we'll probably get right back to in person soon enough. So we're excited. And that's the purpose for this meetup: education, networking, be with other like-minded folks that are all doing the same thing. So our sponsors, Apartment Educators, we'll move to the next slide too. So we want to thank our Apartment Educators, and in transparency, I'm one of the coaches, Devin's one of the founders, Ruben as well. Just a group of individuals that, again, if you want to learn how to do deals on your own, find deals, fund them, finance them, operate them, exit them, and bring other investors along for your ride, then this is a great way to go learn how to go syndicate properties, multifamily, commercial. We're not talking about 4 units or 8 units or these, the smaller multifamily. We're talking about large multifamily syndication, 100 plus units, or, some sizable properties in the millions of dollars. And there's an ecosystem here in Texas that is also drawing some other individuals out of Texas that all want to come invest here. So we're accepting applications now. If you're interested, we'll put the contact information at the end of the presentation here, and come join us. So thanks to the Apartment Educators. Again, Q&A box on the bottom. As opposed to the chat, it's easier for us to keep track of it. Just as they pop up in your mind, let them fly. And we'll go to the agenda. Devin?
Yeah, well, thanks, Abel. We'll introduce a little bit about myself and Abel. We're going to talk about why multifamily as an investment vehicle. And then the meat of today's presentation is building your brand. And then, of course, Q&A we'll handle at the end, but go ahead and fire off those questions in the Q&A box as soon as they occur to you. A little bit about us. My name's Devin Elder. I was born and raised in San Antonio. I worked in the corporate. I got a college degree. Worked in the corporate world. Right, pretty traditional track. I'm married. Have 3 children. But it wasn't enough for me. I was hungry for more, and so I was seeking out ways to be an entrepreneur for more freedom and more income. And real estate ended up being the vehicle for that. So in a relatively short period of time, I was able to leave a nice, cushy 6-figure corporate job. I was able to go out and buy, at this point, hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate. It's pretty crazy. But once you learn how to build a team and scale this thing up, things tend to happen pretty quickly. So, I went out from buying some houses and a 6-unit deal, which was my first project, to, next month we'll close on a 400-unit deal. And that escalated quickly, right? And that's the business model that we're talking about here, can scale very quickly and build a lot of wealth for you and your family and your investors. So that's my story. I'm here because this is all about team and network, right? Whether that's finding your next partner, whether that's finding the next person that we're going to coach to go run their own deals, whether that's finding the next investor, or whether that's me maybe finding somebody that I'm going to invest with next. Our coaching students that are closing the deal today that I mentioned, I'm an investor in that deal, right? So we want to build that group of partners that we can all do deals with together. And this multifamily is big enough that the pie is big enough that everybody can win. That's what I love about it. We're not flipping a house, splitting a $15,000 profit 3 ways, right? That's not worth getting out of bed. We're talking about multi-million-dollar deals here that allows you to have a team and let everybody win. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to educate. I'm here to network. I'm here to meet future partners, all that good stuff. Abel?
Man, I'm fired up, baby. I'm fired up. I like that. My name is Abel Pacheco. I'm the president of 5 Talents Commercial Real Estate. I am father. I got two little ones, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, married to my beautiful wife, Leslie. And that's really my motivation or my why to kind of get after this. Coming from the professional world, spending 13 years in tech, and investing in quote unquote real estate in single family properties. I heard that saying that says majority of millionaires were created in real estate. Well, I look back on 10 years after investing and I wasn't a millionaire yet. So I go, what the heck? How did that happen? I missed the boat somewhere. And I realized that real wealth gets created a little bit differently than one investment, single family at a time, using your own resources. And that was it. So anyways, I went from 8 doors in 10 years to 800 doors in under a couple. And, I was a passive investor in a 400 doors, and now I'm a general partner in a little over 6. So the math doesn't quite add up because now it's been 3 and we're at almost 1,000 doors. So anyways, excited for that. It's been a good journey all through multifamily syndication. And I love giving education out because someone gave education to me. That's what sparked an interest. I ended up partnering a bunch of times with that individual, and that is my partner, Devin. So I still enjoy, contributing, giving back, providing education. And like him, man, I'm a networker, and I love meeting hopefully my next new partners, whether you're investors or general partners. And that's why we do this, get exposure. And we're talking about building a brand today. So this is why we do this. So good to talk. Let's keep going through this. Well, let me cover why multifamily first. From a multifamily perspective, it is absolutely a team sport that we can all come together and put our capital in together and buy something bigger than what we would have been able to buy on our own. So as Devin mentioned, man, 15K profit split 3 ways, not enough to get out of bed, but you got a $10 million deal where the bank's giving you 80% or 75% sometimes more, 78, 80% leverage. And now they're giving you that to buy a business, and you only have to put in 20%. Well, between enough of us, we all put in 50, 100K. It's just, friends coming together and we're buying something bigger, and we all have better returns, better cash flow, bigger chunks of equity. It's a passive investment for a lot of the passive investors. Somebody that is a professional at work, doing, the daily grind. That's what you spend a lot of time in it. So, you're trying to put your money in a better vehicle than potentially single family. There's better tax benefits. You have cost segregation, accelerated appreciation. And then also, man, if we're going to put $1 million somewhere, if you're sitting on $1 million, let's just say that's 100, you're sitting on 100K somewhere, put in the stock market, and that thing could go, you have Elon Musk tweet the wrong thing on the wrong day, and all of a sudden your stock goes down. The multifamily property is a little opposite. I'm going to drive by it today. I'm going to drive by it tomorrow. In 20 years, I'll drive by it then again, and I'll drive by it and it'll still be there. So essentially, that's why we're investing in multifamily in so many words. But that's what we're covering on our presentation. So we'll kind of keep going through this next slide here.
All right. So let's talk about building your brand. Why build your brand? At a high level, this is a multi-million-dollar business, right? This is one of the most simple, essential businesses that there is. Housing, roof over your head. We all pay for it, right? We either own our house outright that we paid for, or we have a mortgage, or we rent it from somebody, or we rent an apartment. But everybody's got to have a place to live. So we like the bigger projects because a transaction is a transaction and it's all work. We might as well go do big ones if we're going to spend the same energy and time doing a transaction. So this is a multi-million-dollar business. You can build repeat customers, meaning that if you're building a brand to go out and purchase multifamily and you have investors come along, we've got investors that have been with us for years and years and years and years, and just deal after deal after deal. It makes it easy for them because they know us. They see how we operate. We're a known quantity. It makes it easy for us because we know them and there's a relationship there. And it's not just a transactional one and done deal. You go wholesale a house, that's it. That's done. Transactional, done. With building your multifamily brand, if you do it right, all those investors are going to be happy. They're going to bring more friends, and it's just going to exponentially grow. So you got repeat customers there. And then finally, you can raise capital easily. Raising capital for real estate deals is different than raising capital for other speculative ventures. Now, any investment carries some risk, but people tend to just inherently understand real estate. Oh, it's an apartment complex that has 100,000 in rents coming in. Your expenses are 50,000 and there's some cash flow left over after you pay the bank. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I can get on board with that. The bank's loaning you majority of the money, 75% of the money. Okay. People just kind of inherently understand it. So it's easier to raise capital than if I were out there pitching you. Boy, I've gotten pitched all kind of crazy stuff, right? But, if I was pitching you any number of other investments, I don't want to go too far into this, but I may have just lost 100% of my investment on another investment that I branched out into. Turns out, golly, I may not be able to say anything about it, but a real disaster, right? Thankfully, I did not invest a whole ton of money, but it just kind of every time, it kind of teaches me like stick with the real estate. It's simple, straight down the fairway, easy to understand. You're not going to lose capital. You're going to see appreciation. And so you can raise capital easily within real estate because people just kind of inherently understand and like it. And you'll notice it if you're at a cocktail party or something, you start talking about your real estate investor, people's ears perk up and they're like, tell me more about that. It's kind of like everybody secretly wants to be a real estate investor. So if you have that knowledge and expertise, people will actively seek you out. It's pretty bizarre. So those are the reasons we're building our brand. We can move on here to the next slide here and talk about the basics. So this is basic, and it's interesting how many times we see these basics violated. Give it some thought. I said earlier, this is a multi-million-dollar business, right? Treat it as such. You're going to have a company name. This is going to be a professional brand. This does not have to be rocket science. You don't have to labor over it for years, but a lot of times it might be an acronym, DJE, Texas Management Group. That's the name of my company. It might be something capital, DJE Capital. It might be 5 Talents Commercial Real Estate. I've seen, equity is a popular one. Capital is a popular one. ABC Capital, XYZ Capital, your last name capital. Your last name capital is a pretty, like, you can't really go wrong with that if you like your last name, right? Your last name, I could have called the company Elder Capital, and that would have been a fine name. You want to, if you're going to start doing this, go spend the $4 on a branded email, right? A domain. So, if I were to go with eldercapital.com and get Devin at Elder Capital or whatever your name is, spend a few dollars for a logo. You can go to a site like Fiverr and literally spend $5 on it, and maybe spend $30 and splash out on it. We've actually used Fiverr for logo designs for multi-million-dollar apartment communities. And me and the guy that runs our property management company were laughing because, in the past he's seen tens of thousands of dollars paid for logo design for multifamily. I think we're paying like $55 or something like that, right? So you can do that too. You get a logo and a website done very cheaply. Make sure they're tasteful and simple and look good. On a logo, simple is good. You want it to be easily recognizable. And you can get a website on GoDaddy, or you can pay somebody a couple of bucks to set it up. Get some business cards for these networking events. Your business card, I think it's a little cheesy to have your face on it, but if you're networking, put your face on it. Get a professional photo done, put your face on it. Because if you're networking in a room with a lot of other people, which we're going to be doing here soon, I'm super excited about more on that in a little bit, but you're meeting a bunch of new people, give them your card, make sure it has your face on it. Humans are highly attuned to recognize faces. And so use your face on your business card, even though personally, I think it's a little silly. It is effective. And my business cards have my face on it. And, how did I build a lot of this business for me? I would go to conferences, right? And meet people and make sure everybody knew my name and saw my face. Social media, if you're starting out, once you have your name picked, you should go register a couple of the properties, Facebook, YouTube, those kinds of things, just so you have them locked up. And before you pick a name, you want to go out and see, is that name already taken out there? If you're going to call it Acme Capital, make sure you Google that first and see what's out there first before you pick a name. But those are just some basics. The one that gets me is the Gmail. Like, man, if you're asking me to invest $50,000 in your project and you're coming from a Gmail account, unless I already know that you're extremely successful and you just don't care and you're already extremely successful and I know that, great. That's fine. If there's a huge investor, multi-millionaire guy and he's using a Gmail, great. That's fine. If you're just starting, you're trying to build credibility with strangers, go get that professional domain. It's not hard to set this up. You can do it in a weekend, or you can pay somebody to do it in a weekend for a couple $100, and then it's just done. Don't obsess over it, because you got better things to do, right? You need to get educated and get networked, but get this stuff done at a very basic level. Abel, what did I miss on that?
You got a lot of all the basics, right? That, like you said, you got to have a presence, got to push it out there. Once you have all your properties up, your Facebook, your Insta, your LinkedIn, your, all the different, if you want to do Twitter or whatever, use it. So there's another one that people don't do is they don't get a post out, and you don't have to be perfect in the beginning. Something is better than nothing in the beginning. Just let people know you're there. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about having production quality. Canva is super slick. You want something that looks and feels really great. You can go do it on your own, or you can hire somebody like Devin said, a Fiverr, to create something for you, but just get it out there. The message is super important. And that's what people are going to see and resonate. If you have no presence, zero presence is worse than I think maybe a poor one. I don't know. You want somebody to know you're there. If they don't even know you, they're never going to like or trust you. And I did hear that earlier this year. When you think about this branding part of it, it's you want people to have know, like, and trust you. I always thought that trust was the most important thing. If somebody may dislike me because of the way I come across or my attitude or whatever, but I always wanted to be trustworthy. Oh, I better know my product, better know what the heck I'm talking about. I better be educated in it, and I better, have a good character integrity, right? Well, someone told me last year, I think it was one of the other large syndicators in our, mastermind was, if they don't ever know you, they're never going to be able to like or trust you. So get your presence out there. And that's probably just using it. So that's for the basics. Make sure you get out there every day.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Abel. So we'll move on here and talk about the next set here, multifamily brand building. So this is getting a little bit deeper into building the brand, right? You want your name and you want your email and everything set up. What's really, really helpful is to have a deck or a white paper or a sample deal package is really helpful, right? And so you might be trying to raise capital from people that have never invested in real estate through a syndication, meaning where we pool capital and investors together. So you're going to want to give an overview of multifamily investing. And then you're going to want to have an overview of your company and an overview of you. And if you're new to this, you're going to have partners, period. You're not going to go buy a 100-unit project your first time out, brand new. I mean, first of all, you're probably not going to get a real good look at an opportunity from a broker without a partnership. So what you're going to do in the beginning is build a team and leverage other people's credibility, whether it's your co-sponsor, which is very common, right? I co-sponsor deals with newer people, and the lender looks at that and goes, oh, Devin's on this and the new people. Well, together, that's fine. We're going to do this deal, right? So that's what you're going to do in the beginning. You're going to co-sponsor with people and you're going to use their credibility and track record. And it gives everybody a comfort level, investors, lenders, everybody, that you have a partner on the team that is experienced and has done this a bunch of times. So you're going to include that in there. Another component of brand building, we publish a monthly newsletter. This is just as an example, DJE, my company. I think our last newsletter, which went out in the beginning of April 2021, was like newsletter 44, 45. That's 45 months in a row we've been publishing a monthly newsletter, right? So when somebody sees that, oh, this is newsletter number 45, go, God, this is a monthly newsletter. How many years is that, right? These guys have been publishing for a long time. And so the consistency of that just creates this snowball effect where we can go raise millions of dollars for our current projects, right? So I highly recommend starting a newsletter, a monthly newsletter. And as you're talking to people, you just put anybody that mentions being interested in real estate, just put them on the list. And so somebody might open your emails 10 months in a row and then invest with you on the 11th month. And that's fine. We're playing the long game here. This is relationship based. This is not transactional. So you want to just get people into that universe and seeing the content from you. So definitely do a monthly newsletter, but plan it first. Plan out a content map, and it just could be 3 pieces of content, because the months go by pretty quickly when you're on a deadline, especially if you've got, like me, building in this business, father, husband, 3 kids, lots of hobbies, a full-time day job. Like, man, I got a lot going on and I got to write this newsletter. Plan it out and make sure that you can publish consistently, because the last thing you want to do is start a newsletter and then shut it down 3 months later. People are going to be like, wow, that guy wasn't very committed to that business. So consistency is key, but I recommend just get a free MailChimp account, and people that you talk to that are interested in learning about what you're doing, just put them on there. Our newsletter list is in the thousands now, and it started with 5 people, right? It's just how it's grown over time. You're going to want to get a CRM. Now, this could be MailChimp, which has, a CRM. It could be another CRM. There's some pretty good ones that you can get for free. For one of our companies, we use HubSpot. I believe it's a free version. It's pretty robust, but you're going to want to track some things for people. When did you talk to them? Is important, especially if we're doing a 506B offering here, where we've got to have a pre-existing relationship. It's good to have it documented when you began that pre-existing relationship. And then, notes about that person, whether they're accredited or not, et cetera. But you're going to want to start to keep track of that stuff. We use tags in our CRM where, you might have, show me all the brokers tag. Okay, there's all the brokers. Show me all the investors. Boom, there it is. Show me people that be a potential key principal on a deal. Boom. Show me people that might be interested in partnering with me to raise capital for the deal. Boom, there it is. And so it's just going to simplify your life. As you grow a business, you want everything out of your head and in the computer, right? You don't want to have to remember stuff. You want it in the computer. CRM or customer relationship management is important. Finally, thought leadership. This has been an increasingly popular way to grow your brand. And what does this mean? I cringe a little at the term thought leadership. There's a friend of mine that's a broker, and in his LinkedIn profile, he calls himself a thought leader. I don't know how I feel about that, but you want to do what a thought leader does, and that is create content, share content, interview experts, et cetera. I mean, look, we've all got a HD production facility in our pocket, right? Like there's no excuse for that anymore. And honestly, I think people kind of appreciate the fact that you can just whip out the phone and do a Facebook Live or do whatever. I don't think people, the content's already HD. It's going to be out on LinkedIn or Facebook or your newsletter or YouTube or wherever. I don't think people care that this is not a Spielberg production, right? It's just about getting the message out. And to Abel's point earlier, just start and iterate and improve. It's not going to be perfect. And if you have fear of being on camera, get over it, right? We're adults here, and it's time to take on something new, a new challenge, because your capabilities and your confidence comes after the challenge. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. So get on the other side of it, and that's when you get your new confidence, on the other side of your fear. Podcast is a popular option. There are a lot of podcasts out there, right? And so you make the argument that it's saturated. Well, I thought about that several years ago when I started my podcast, and I think we're over 100 episodes now. So we've been doing it for a little over 2 years. I thought, geez, there's so many good podcasts out there. What am I going to offer? Well, it's the same thing as, what do I offer my investors? I offer them great return, safe deal, tax advantages. Are there other guys in the country doing what I do? You bet, but I don't care about them. I'm just looking to be a hero to a couple hundred investors. That's it. So if my investors are listening to our podcast, great. I'm not trying to have 10 billion downloads. I'm just trying to build relationships and be a hero to a small set of investors. That's all I care about. There's a company called Micro Famous I saw. I don't know anything about them other than they do podcast production, but I thought that's a great name. You want to be a hero to a very small set of folks, your investors, and take care of them. And so a podcast can be a good way to do that. A podcast can also be a great way to network. Abel's been doing a daily podcast. Holy smokes, man. I tip my hat to you on that. I know how much work that is to actually ship that on that interval. That's incredible. But think about the amount of people that you're talking to and networking and meeting. There's no substitute for that. If you hosted a podcast for a year, you are going to be so much more educated and connected on the other side of that. Even if you didn't get $1 of benefit from, let's say, a new investor coming in or anything like that, just the networking and education component. And that was the threshold for me, was doing a podcast. If I'm going to do a podcast, I need to commit to it for 2 years and expect zero benefit. And if I was willing to do that, it was time to launch a podcast. And I thought, if we didn't get one single download of the podcast, would it still be a benefit? And because of the networking and education, it has been. Because you might reach out to somebody that's influential and say, hey man, can I pick your brain? Can I take you to lunch, buy you coffee? And, my answer when I get that question usually is, man, I'm busy. No. But if you ask somebody, hey, would you be a guest on my podcast? Sure. Yeah, it's the same thing, right? So you're going to get access to a lot of people by hosting a podcast. Finally, a book. Now, I have toyed with the idea. I may write a book at some point. I haven't put on the calendar. Abel might have some different thoughts on that. I think I don't know if I should talk about that, but a book is another serious indicator of credibility, because everybody knows a book doesn't just happen. There's a lot of work that goes into that, and it can be a real marketing tool, or kind of the nicest business card you can imagine would actually be a published author on your topic. So those are some examples. You don't have to do all those. You don't have to do any of them, but having stuff out there can be extremely helpful as you build your brand. And think about, if somebody's thinking about partnering with you and they Google you or your company and they don't see anything, it's hard for them to make decisions. If they Google my company or Abel's company, they're going to see tons of content. And if they want to go down that rabbit hole, you could listen to hundreds of hours of interviews with me if you wanted to pursue that. You pursue that as long as you want. So when a new investor comes to us and they say, yeah, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts, I know they kind of already know me. I'm the same person I am on the podcast as I am when I turn the podcast off and walk out to the office. It's the same Devin Elder. So if you spent time listening to the podcast, you basically know me. So that's a really leveraged way to build relationships, because you can reach 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 people with the same amount of your finite time. So that's kind of some things there on thought leadership. Abel, what did I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on maybe the book or some of these other pieces here.
Yeah, let me go. I guess really just one at a time, because Devin basically laid out all of these components that if you follow, it's a recipe, just like baking a cake. If you put all the ingredients in there, you're gonna have a cake. and if you want to raise millions of dollars for multifamily syndications, you just follow the recipe and go do all those things. Now, some of you want a chocolate cake, and somebody want a strawberry upside down pineapple cake, whatever. You're gonna put it together differently, but it's all the same. You can decide what you want to go after. Do I want to raise $1 million in my first year? Or am I trying to get after this, a business where I can scale slowly on the side and, raise a few $100,000 for my first couple of deals as a part-time co-sponsor while I'm working a W-2, as I'm taking some apartment educators classes? Or no, this is what I want to do full time, and I can see myself doing this forever. And I might as well lay my foundation now, because I'm going to be doing this for the next 5 to 10 years. How do I build it? Right. And all of these components absolutely work. It's not a matter of which ones work the best. I think it's a matter of like which ones you want to go work the best, and how prepared you are to get consistent and stick with it. Devin mentioned those newsletters. He had told me something a while back, and he goes, don't start the newsletter until you're prepared to go through with it, just like he did. And, it took me a little bit of time, but I go, okay, I'm ready to commit. And now we're on number 18, right? He said the same thing on the podcast. He goes, hey, don't launch the podcast until you expect to give education, knowledge, time, investment without getting ready to receive anything for 2 years. Give yourself a 2-year commitment. And if you're ready to commit, then go for it. And I go, you know what? I'm ready to do that. And in truth, there's ways to scale those, just like there is anything else. You can hire people. You can hire people to help you get your voice, your message, your recording, your editing, your all the things we're talking about. You can do the same for newsletters, for articles, for blogs, to make them beautiful. You can do the same thing for posts, for LinkedIn and Facebook and Insta and whatever. And that's all of those things are available for any entrepreneur, regardless of what business you're starting, whether it's multifamily syndication or pick your business. As an entrepreneur, you need to get a message out there. And, if you're not building a brand, or you're not taking the time to do it for yourself, the brand, you already branded. The brand is like no business brand, right? So if you want to do the opposite, what sparked an interest for me was a couple of things, like you said. So all those things that Devin mentioned. My personal coach that I mentor with once a week, he told me, he's a speaker and published author and yada yada yada. A company hired him, and it was the Canned Tomato Company. Canned Tomato guys reached out to my mentor and said, hey, will you come teach all of our salespeople how to build a social web presence? Because it was last year during the time of COVID. And it sparked this interest. They're paying them thousands of dollars to come do this training and figure out how to do that. I go, if the Canned Tomato guys need to figure out how to get their web presence up, then surely a topic like multifamily investing for your education, for financial freedom, and you absolutely need to build a brand around it. But so on the podcast point, I've been doing a podcast every single day, Monday through Friday. I take Saturdays and Sundays off, and been publishing once a day since September. We've got 140 shows published, and we've gotten 35,000 downloads. And I think about the time, it took a lot of time to record that many shows, but I would have never been able to speak to 30,000 people in such a short amount of time. And, this is something that, I'll share a story with you. I knew a guy that was very uncomfortable on video, super uncomfortable in video. In his professional career, he did really great. He sold million-dollar companies, billion-dollar organizations. He sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products. He was very comfortable in front of a smaller group audience. You get him in front of an executive, board of executives, PowerPoint presentation, speaking in a group at the executive table, talking about dollars, no problem face-to-face and in person, because that's who the guy was. He just spent a lot of time face-to-face talking to people. But the moment a camera came out and the moment the lights came out, he would freeze and stutter and pause, and it couldn't get a full statement out because like the lights were there. It was overwhelming, profusely start sweating. And that individual now is out on camera like all the freaking time on videos. And that individual raises like millions of dollars from people that he's never met in person. They do it, just because of his video presence. And that's really me. Like, so that's my story. I worked at Rackspace. I was comfortable in IT face to face, but I recorded some videos, commercials they wanted me to record, and I couldn't get it out there. I couldn't get a word because it was recording. And now Devin mentioned something. Everything that you want, your success is on the other side of being uncomfortable. If you can get uncomfortable, you're going to push yourself to new limits. I'll tell you what, the first time I signed on a $7 million loan for a multifamily deal was a little daunting and uncomfortable, but it was a bunch of practice, a bunch of steps that helped me have the ability to go do that, which is the same as writing my first book, which was like, I don't know, 65, 70 pages, which is on our website. You can go download it for free right now. But that book, what started with a bunch of smaller articles and a bunch of content that I wanted to create. And then we mashed it all together and put it all together. And now you have this, put a little stories in there and there's a book. And that's led to the second book that I thought I was going to finish last year. But we started, it took taking me longer. It's going to be like a full printed book. And that is just a freaking task and a half, I would say. But it's like, I think it's like anything else, like going to college, going to school, buying a big deal, raising millions of dollars, starting your own business. If you're really determined and you want to go get it, who cares how long it's going to take? If it takes you 48 newsletters, like Devin said, to be able to in a position now to go buy this 400 unit deal that they're after, raising millions and millions, then so be it. Pay the price, get after it, go build your brand and make it happen. So I think that's a lot of my thoughts around this. So hopefully that's helped a few people get ready to take some action.
Love it, man. Fired up, Abel. I love it. So we'll move on here from this slide into the Q&A. We've got a question here from Omar. Once you've created your brand, and that's working well to capture the attention of investors, what do you do differently to bring new investors to your deals when this will be the first time for you to work with, for them to work with you? So really important distinction here is you always want to be having these conversations kind of on an ongoing basis, because when you actually have a deal, things move quickly, right? You really want to try to educate people and have an FAQ and have those conversations, get people comfortable with it up front, because when the deal comes, things go quickly. There's usually a finite window to raise the capital. Just about every sponsor I know does a first come, first serve model. So, hey, launching our deal, in or out, whatever, it doesn't matter to us. We're just going to leave it open until it's full. That's just the fairest way to do it. So people that are repeat investors know they need to act quickly, but that's what you're going to do is always be networking and educating people. So, and just tell them up front, when the deal does come out, it all happens quickly. So let's answer any questions you have up front before we get into it. Now, in terms of doing things differently from other sponsors, man, it's so basic. Do what you said you were going to do. If you're going to have updates out in the middle of the month, have them out in the middle of the month, right? It's not hard. You're not out there competing with other sponsors for the same investor. I would say, get the famine mentality out of your brain. There's trillions of dollars of investment capital that wants to find these deals. That's not the problem. Right. The problem, really, the hard part is going to be finding the deal and running the deal. That's the real work, right? The capital is actually, once you get rolling, not the hard part of this business, because if you can put together a compelling offer with a strong team on a good deal, and and enough people see it, you're going to have the capital for it. So I would just be hyper focused on being brilliant at the basics. That is doing what you said you were going to do, making it a very seamless, easy, stress-free process for that passive investor. And that's what we've built our whole company around, is an investor focus, right? How do we be the best investment experience on the planet? That's our standard. Do we hit that every day? No, we don't hit that every day, but that's our standard that we're trying to hit. We want to be the best investor experience on the planet Earth, right? So how do we do that? That's what we're building it around. And if you do that, if you have that focus, investor first, that investor is going to come back. That they're going to tell their friends. So that's really what you want to do to differentiate yourself. You want to have the most maniacal focus on making an amazing investor experience at whatever cost it is to you. However many late nights you need to work, whatever systems you got to put in place, whatever software you got to buy, whatever schedule you got to make it the most easy, painless, enjoyable investment experience for your investors. And that is going to absolutely set you apart. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It really just being responsive, doing what you said you were going to do, not having surprises for people, those kinds of things are just the basics. But if you don't focus on them, it's easy to get off track with the basics. So that's what we try to do at our firm, and that's what I recommend you do, is just top line. How do you make it an incredible investor experience, and everything else comes behind that. If you got any other Q&A, put them in the chat box. And I think because we're coming up on we still got some time in the hour here, but let's move it ahead here. Q&A is still open, so put them in the chat box, but let's talk about our next events. April 27th at noon. You can put that on your calendar for another event like this. We're going to do a case study. And then we're really excited about an in-person event, May 25th at 6:30 p.m. in San Antonio. So we can't wait. This is our first.
Does that say in person? Does that say in person, Devin?
Can you believe that? It's not a typo.
Interrupt you. Does that say in person?
It is not a typo. I mean, I'm having flashbacks to early 2020, when we're all in a room shaking hands and stuff. So getting back to that is the best in terms of networking and education and building relationships, strengthening relationships. Super excited about that. And then we're also excited to announce our summer boot camp on June 26th. So you're going to want to go to apartmenteducators.com/events to see all this stuff. And if you don't already, go like our Facebook page at facebook.com/apartmenteducators, or you can just search Apartment Educators, and we've got content there that we push out. You can network with other people, see the events, all that good stuff. So that's what's coming up. We're excited to connect with you guys in person, and excited to get back to live events, and keep helping everybody out, keep helping each other grow each other's business. So that's going to kind of wrap it up for today. Abel, I don't know if you have any parting thoughts for everybody that's on right now.
Yeah. So this is kind of going back to the same question you answered, but when I see this next meetups, people want to know, well, how do I raise more capital or bring new investors? Once I've got the brand going, it's not anything new. It's just the same over and over and over and over.
I love it. Yep.
Right. So there is a meetup on April the 27th. Like, come, and we're going to do networking. So this time was more education. We wanted to share some information with you, but when you come on April the 27th, and then the in-person event, come out. If you're in Texas, come to San Antonio on May the 25th. It's not new. It's not a new activity. It's fact, the same old activity that I started doing when I started doing this in 2018. Same old. It's just, I do it again. Right.
Yep.
And you do it consistently. And then I don't know how many boot camps I've been to. If you've heard my story or heard enough of my podcast, I dropped thousands of dollars. I went and traveled all around the country, and we went to conferences and boot camps and seminars, and, yeah, they were new, but it's the same old. And I heard it again. Finally sinks into the subconscious. I can do this. Abel, you can do this. Somebody listening, you can do this too. If I can do it, I promise. If I can do it, you guys can do it too. And so you hear it, and then you shake hands and meet with somebody that you're networking with that says, you know what, I want to do this too. You want to partner up together? and figure out how to work together. And then a third person says, well, man, I really like you guys. I don't want to do all the work that you're going to do, but I'll put in 100 grand with you if y'all go do that. And that wouldn't have ever happened had you not come to the meetup, had you not come to the boot camp, had you not come. You got to take action. And in the first decision is, I'm going to attend. So you need to do that. And that's the same old.
Love it. Well, thank you guys for jumping on and joining us today. We appreciate it. Go to apartmenteducators.com, get signed up for the events. We'll see you at the next one, guys. Appreciate it.